This is the day, the hour, the time I give. all come, casting off our crowns, would you hear our cry? We want to see you glorified. As we all
say, this is my desire to honor you, Lord, with all my heart I worship you. And all I have within me, Lord, I give you praise. From the rooftops I proclaim that I am yours. I am yours. And all that I am, I place into your loving hands. And I am yours. Say, I am yours. So I shout out your name. From the rooftops I proclaim that I am yours. I am yours. And all that I am, I place into your loving hands. And I am yours. For I am yours. Yeah, I stand with arms wide open to walk the sun, the everlasting God, the everlasting God. Here I am, I stand with arms wide open to walk the sun, the everlasting God, the everlasting God. So I shout out your name. From the rooftops I proclaim that I am yours. I am yours. And all that I am, I place into your loving hands. And I am yours. I am yours. So I shout out your name. From the rooftops I proclaim that I am yours. I am yours. And all that I am, I place into your loving hands. And I am yours. I am yours. Jesus, I'm yours. Come on, shout out to the name of Jesus. Oh, I'm telling you, this is what we're dealing with, all these I ams. I'm telling you, there is freedom when you begin to understand who Jesus is in these I ams. Steve, bring that up there for me. The next slide. As I was thinking about this, I was thinking about just a real quick, brief synopsis on this. You know, we dealt with each one of these 7 I am sayings. And the first one was, I am the bread of life. In other words, Jesus was saying, He's the one who is your sustaining bread. He's the one who will fulfill you, who come in and make sure you have nourishment, and that you live by Him. And all these sort of tie in together. And He says, I am the light of the world. He is the one who will give you clear direction to where you need to go. He's the one who will light your path. He's the one who literally will shed light into you to take the darkness out. He is the answer for that. He says, I am the gate of the sheep. That there refers to that He is our protector, that He is the one that nothing can get in unless He lets it in. If He says no, it's going to be no. And He's also the one that we pass in and out through. He's the one that takes us to good pasture. But then it says, I'm a good shepherd. He's the one who truly cares for us, who will lead and guide and direct us in the way that we need to go. And so we looked at that, and then we saw, He said, I am the resurrection and life. That means no matter what's going on, He is the answer. He can breathe life where there was death. I'm here to tell you, I don't care what has happened in your life. Jesus Christ has the power to resurrect it and speak life into it again. Again, I don't care where you are. Because He is who He is, He's able to do this. And then last week we dealt with, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And if you remember, I don't know if I shared this with you clearly enough last week, but I want to reiterate it again today. This simply means no matter what you're going to see the disciples. And Jesus was telling them all this stuff about Him getting ready to leave this world, that He was going to be crucified, that He was going to suffer. All of a sudden their world was rough because something was beginning to happen that they said, I thought it was supposed to be something different. I thought I knew how we were going to go. All of a sudden now you're throwing a monkey wrench like crazy. And Jesus is just simply telling them, no, in the midst of this, just look to me. Because I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. In other words, everything you need, just look to me. I am the answer. In the midst of the struggle, in the midst of the battle, in the midst of the confusion, just look at me. I'm the way. I'm the truth you need to look into. I'm the truth you need to rely upon. I'm the life that will sustain you. It's all in me. That's what he was sharing with them. I know, yes, it talks about, it's referred to also going to the Father, but he's also emphasizing who he is and what he's offering us as followers of his. And then this is the last recorded one that is in the book of John, where he says, I am the true vine. And we're going to dive into this morning and realize that without him, we can't do anything. He is the true vine. But you know, we're getting ready to get into summertime. And I don't have one, but I know others who have them and stuff like that. You know, summertime's a time where people go out and they usually will plant a garden or something. You know, they'll go out, they'll get it ready and plant a garden. Why do people plant a garden? Why do you plant a garden? Do you think it's because they're just bored and they had nothing else to do? I mean, they want what? They want the food, they want the produce, they want the fruits. Whatever they have planted into that garden, they're looking to get something back in return. You know, they just don't, you know, if a farmer plants something, he's going to get it back in return, he's not going to waste his time. I know we have commercial farmers that do it for money, but the bottom line is, even though they're doing it for money, what are they doing? As they plant the seed, they need the produce to grow so they can harvest this produce and take it out and what? Make money. But the whole purpose of a farmer planting a garden or planting crops is that they're looking for produce to come back in return. And as we get into this, do you realize this morning that God is a gardener? That's what he is. Who does he plant? He plants us. He plants people. I mean, yes, I know he made the earth and everything, and there's the natural part of that, but for our purposes here this morning, he plants people. He plants us, and he's looking for a return on what he has planted. He's looking for production out of us. He's looking for fruit to come forth out of what he has planted. So what's the kind of fruit that God is looking for? I'm going to touch this a little bit later on in the message, but just real quickly, he's looking for obedience. He's looking for righteousness. He's looking for worship. He's looking for glory from his creation. In other words, God's doing this not because he needs it, because it's what's good for us, but also it comes back to him. But if we are God's garden, and if we have been created to produce fruit for him, we arrive at a fundamental question. And what is it? How can we be sure that God is pleased with our fruit? How can we be sure of this? And there's some other questions that go along with this. What will it take for us to be acceptable to God? Do we need to follow a strict set of rules and regulations? Do we need to perform certain sacrifices and rituals? What do we do with the nagging feeling that we do not measure up? And when we look at John 15, where Jesus utters his statement, it gives us answers to these questions. And in this passage, we learn how we can be more pleasing to God and how to produce the fruit that he wants. And again, as I even get into this, let me say this so I don't forget to say it later. Understand, what God is calling us to do, not only will he enable us to do, he will help us do. You're not in this thing alone. In other words, God's not saying, okay, Cindy, here, boom, this is what we've done. Now go do it, just leave you alone. He'll tell you what he wants, but not only he'll tell you what, but he'll come up right beside you and help you with every step of the way if you allow him to. That's what he desires to do, and that's what he will do. So we're going to dive into this here this morning and see what it has to say. But in John chapter 15, verses 1 through 4, this is what we read. Jesus says, I am the true grapevine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch of mine that doesn't produce fruit, and he prunes the branches that do not bear fruit so that they will produce even more fruit, even more. You have already been pruned and purified by the message I have given you. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine. And you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. So number one thing I want to talk to you about today is this. There's three things I want to share with you this morning. The first one's this. Jesus is the source of life. This is what he's declaring to us. Jesus, that he is the source of life. In Hampton Court near London, there is a grapevine which is about 1,000 years old. The grapevine has one root and it's about 2 feet thick. And it has some branches that are over 200 feet long. Despite its age, the vine produces several tons of grapes each year. Although some of the smaller branches are 200 feet away from the main stem, they still bear the sweet and delicious fruit because they are connected to the vine. Life flows from that single root and throughout the vine, bringing nourishment and strength to each of the branches. And see, Jesus promises to do the same for us. He is the true vine, bringing life to each branch. The purpose of the vine is to bring nourishment to the branches in order that they might produce fruit. When separated from the vine, the branches wither and die. The vitality of our spiritual life is dependent upon our connection to Jesus, the true vine. So we need to understand this. So each of us need to answer these two questions this morning. First, are we connected to the vine, or is the life of Jesus flowing within us? So that's the first question. It's sort of all together. Are we connected to the vine, and is the life of Jesus flowing within us? Second, if we are connected to the vine and are joined to Jesus, then are we producing fruit through our lives? Again, if we say we know Him, if we say we're connected to Him, these are the things. Because if we're connected, then we need to answer question number 2. But what does it mean when Jesus says He is the true vine? The wording literally reads, I am, all capital, I am the vine, the true one. And this phrase doesn't sound too impactful in our English language, but if you look at it in the Greek language puts a special emphasis on the word true, about Him being the true vine. So if something is true, then its opposite is false. Okay? This means that there are others who claim to make themselves to be true, which the true vine, and we find out that they're false. Jesus, in this parable, is not saying that natural grapevines are false, because we know that they're real. He's using this as symbolic to point to something. But the comparison isn't made between Jesus and grapevines, but against a false vision of Israel. The Old Testament often compares Israel to a grapevine. And in many cases, such as in Isaiah 5, 1 and 2, it is in a negative way. So many times when you look at the Old Testament, Israel is called God's grapevine. Okay? And here's what Isaiah says about that. In Isaiah 5, verses 1 and 2, it says, Now I will sing for the one I love a song about his vineyard. My beloved hath a vineyard on a rich and fertile hill. He plowed the land, cleared its stones, and planted it with the best vines. In the middle he built a watchtower, and he carved a winepress in the nearby rocks. Then he waited for a harvest of sweet grapes, but the grapes that grew were bitter. So you understand, God was planting something. God was making something. He wanted to come out a certain way, but something happened that the grapes, instead of being sweet, they became bitter. See, the vineyard which God planted was supposed to yield sweet grapes, but the grapes went wild and sour. Israel had become false to God. See, when Jesus was talking about this grapevine, especially when he said, I am the true grapevine, you got to remember, these were guys who were raised in Judaism. And they were always taught that the true grapevine, that the true root that was connected to God was the people of Israel. And Jesus told them, look, they got off track. They're not the true grapevine. I am. See, again, In another way, he's rocking their world once again. I remember years ago, I was talking to when the first church we pastored. There was a lady there. We got on a discussion about the end times. And I know I've shared the story before, but I think it's very relevant to help you understand what may have been going through the mind of the disciples. And we got a discussion on the end times. And, we began talking about, just different stuff. And, and there, if you listen to certain prophecy preachers say that, certain end-time preachers say, well, this is what's going to happen, da-da-da-da. Then others say what? Then, no, this is what's going to happen. And depending on which one you like, that's the one you're going to get behind. Am I right? That's the one you're going to believe. Am I right? And if we're discussing this, and I try to keep a pretty even keel about things, because I'm like, the bottom line is, God already knows how it's going to work out. These guys, and again, I don't care how much they study the Bible. Understand this morning, okay? I don't care when it comes to certain things. I don't care how much they study the Bible and all that stuff. There's certain things in the future they don't know. It's their guess. It's their guess. They don't know. God knows, and I do know God reveals things to us, okay? But I simply told her, I said, look, God already knows how it's going to work out. This guy may be right, this guy may be wrong, but the bottom line, God's going to work it out. And I always throw back this, because here's the thing. The religious experts of the day said the Messiah was coming this way. Hence, remember, we're dealing with the mindset of the disciples and what they were taught. The religious leaders, the religious experts, the Bible experts of the day, the Old Testament experts of the day, looking at the prophecy of the coming Messiah, said, this is how the Messiah is going to come, this is how he's going to live. They had all this stuff laid out, and Jesus comes and turns it all upside down. Does it mean that God's word was off? No. And then somewhere along the way, they were either misinterpreting it, or they had it out of whack, that they didn't have it all put together. Because the bottom line is, they're not God. And what I basically told this lady, I said, here's the bottom line. I said, hey, let's not argue about this. Here's the thing. God's going to make it happen the way God says it happened. I don't care what this dude says. I don't care what this dude says. It matters what God says, what he already has worked out. It's going to happen that way. I may have been as blunt with her as I was just then. But, I was trying to do experiment because it's not, there's certain things that there's no argument about. Because honestly, guess what? We don't know. But I said to say, but as with Jesus, she came to be with us no more. And then I don't say that to be funny, I don't say that to be whatever, but because it didn't jive with what she was thinking, because she wasn't the possibility, well, God, just do it the way you want. Because we didn't exactly agree with what she thought, she left. And see, the disciples could have very easily found themselves in this place because Jesus, again, he's stirring up the world. See, we have to be careful too. Many times in our life, God's going to stir up what we think something is. All of a sudden he says, that's what you thought, that ain't that way. And we have to determine at that point who's right. The one who made everything, who knows everything, that yesterday, today, and tomorrow are all now to him. Or us, who we really don't know what's going to happen when we leave this building. We may think we're going here, we're going there, but you know what? You could leave this place. You could have the mindset, when I leave here today, I'm going to go to Olive Grove, and I'm going to get myself a crab cake. Anybody, can I get a witness on that? Yes. I'm going to get a crab cake or whatever, but on your way to Olive Grove, something happens. Your car breaks down, hopefully that's the least of it, or you could get involved in a horrendous accident. Or all of a sudden, as God said to the rich fool, to the guy who had so plenty, he said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take it easy. Say, oh, self, you have much stuff laid up for many years, just take it easy, eat, drink, and be merry. It says, and God said to him, you fool, this very day, your soul is going to be required of you. We don't know what the future holds. We really don't know what the next second holds. Because with as nuts as our world is right now, if something was to happen with our defense system in our country, because we're so close to the capital of our country, if someone was to let off a big enough nuclear weapon there, if a large missile was to hit there, we would all say bye-bye very quickly. We don't know what. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. I'm not saying that to scare anybody. I'm just telling you, my future's in His hands. See, God, a lot of times, He may do things to rock your world, and the thing is, Jesus is rocking your world, but He's saying, don't worry about it. I'm the true vine. I'm the source of life. Like I said, this is what God, when He planted this, and He was expecting to get sweet grapes, but what happened was Israel rebelled. Israel became false to God. So Jesus, He says, I alone am the true vine. And if you're connected to me, you will produce good fruit. He says, because the other stuff is leading you away. It's not bringing you to bring what you're supposed to. You're not bearing what you're supposed to, because the religious leaders of Israel had become so utterly corrupt that they bore false fruit. And honestly, they were taking a whole lot of people with him. So number one, Jesus is the source of life. Then number two is the life source produces fruit. Jesus is the life source, and His life within the believer is for one purpose, to produce fruit. True fruit can only come through being connected to Jesus. The only way we can truly produce fruit is to be connected to Jesus. And as Jesus begins to share this parable, He describes the Father as what? He describes Him as a gardener, as one who goes in and takes care of the plant. And if you see there, it sits there and it reads, it says that He cuts off every branch that doesn't produce fruit, and He prunes branches that do not bear fruit so they produce even more. And as I was studying this, I came across a pretty interesting thing. The word, when we read the word there where it says He cuts off every branch, if you actually go back to the original Greek, the word is area. It's A-I-R-O. I think it's, yeah, never mind. I can't remember if I had a little slide or not. But it can literally mean, it can mean to cut off, but it can also mean to take up. And here's what I mean by that. Because sometimes what a gardener would do in those days, if he had a vine, if he saw that it was laying on the ground where it couldn't produce, he would come by and he would scoop it up and connect it to the trellis so it would have freedom to be able to produce fruit. And then, there's a lot of theologians and scholars who believe that it means literally that if you're not producing fruit, God's going to cut you off and throw you away. And I think eventually that is the case, because what we can think on that is, do anybody remember the parable when Jesus, He tells a parable about the fig tree that wasn't producing anything? And he tells a parable, says, when the owner came out, he says, he told the gardener, he says, cut it down. He says, it hasn't produced anything, cut it down. And what did the gardener say? He says, wait, he says, let me fertilize it, let me prune it again, let me work with it throughout this year and see whether or not I can get it to produce fruit. And he says, but if it doesn't do anything then yes, I'll cut it down and get it out. See, sometimes in life we may be serving, God has to come in and do something. He'll come down, He'll try to lift us up. He'll try to encourage us and tell us, hey, come on, again, that's what I'm saying. When He tells me, we don't have to go through it alone. He will go with us hand in hand. He'll walk with us. And He'll come up and He'll lift us up. In fact, if you sort of read it the one way that it could mean this morning, let me find it here. It's still on that page. Got ahead of myself. Here's what it could literally read. Any branch in me not bearing, He lifts up. In other words, He gets you up to where you have a little bit more light, where you're up off the ground, and where all of a sudden He can do something. See, but the phrase in me or in Him, that's what makes it important, because it's all about the branch that's in Him. That God will take His time, that God doesn't give up so easily on His people, on believers, and He will do what He needs to do to try to help that fruitless branch. But also, He does go in and He does prune things. Sometimes there's things in our life where Him being a good gardener, Him being a good wine dresser, of a vine dresser, He'll come in and He'll snip away things. It's like what a guy will do. He'll go in and they'll snip off unnecessary leaves to make more, to leave nourishment in the vine, in the branch, so we'll get to the fruit, so the fruit will grow to its full ripeness and actually produce more fruit. So God a lot of times will come in and He'll come in and get rid of try to prune, or He will prune away the unnecessary things in our life so we can truly produce what He desires for us to produce. But we need to understand in all of this, though, that the life source produces fruit. Jesus. He's one. If we're connected to Him, we will produce fruit. But then Jesus goes on to tell us this in verses 5 through 8 of John 15. He says again, He says, yes, I am the vine, and you are the branches. Those who remain in me, and I in them, will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me is thrown away like a useless branch and withers. Such branches are gathered into a pile to be burned. But if you remain in me, and my words remain in you, you will ask for anything you want, and it will be granted. When you produce much fruit, you are my true disciples. This brings great glory to my Father. But you notice all through that, the important thing is about what? You have to remain in Him. You have to be in Him. Because without it, He says, if you don't remain in me, you're thrown away. Oh, you're cast off. You're considered as useless. So the third thing is I want to tell you is, no Jesus means no life or fruit. No Jesus, no life, no fruit. See, Jesus commands His disciples to remain in the relationship He has established with them. True fruit can only come from attachment to the true vine. The branch that is cut off from the vine withers and dies and is gathered with other dead branches to be burned. The relationship between the believer and Jesus is essential. The believer produces not just fruit, but abundant fruit. That's what he declares. Believers can do this because of the connection to the vine. It's all about who? It's all about Jesus. But the question is, what is the fruit? Many times we hear this, what is the fruit? Many times it's declared, when you hear this thing, that don't bring much fruit. Fruit, a lot of times, is looked at as winning souls. Those that we're going out to win souls. And that could be a meaning of that. And I'm sure it does have a lot to do with it too. But let me ask you this question. Are we the ones who win souls, or is it God? It's God. It's God. We may tell people about Him, we may point people to Him, but who is it that wins souls? It's God, right? But I do believe that is a meaning of it. But I believe there's also another meaning to this. I believe we can see that the fruit there is also referring to like the fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, meekness, temperance. All of those things. Things that earmark us as different, as truly being followers of Jesus Christ. I truly do believe it is pointing to, yes, it's talking about pointing people to Jesus. And any chance we get, we need to tell people about Jesus. We need to share with them who He is and what He's done with our lives. Yes, we need to share. He will bring them in as we share, but it's more than just that fruit in our lives. Because I'll tell you, there's some people out there who go out there and proclaim Jesus to people, and I'm telling you, what I see on the outside about their life and how they live their life, I want nothing to do with what they got. You may say, Pastor, you're judging. Yes, I am. Because the Bible says, I will know them by their fruits. I will know them by their fruit. And here we read that if we're with Him, we'll produce abundant fruit. And it will be good fruit, not wild and sour fruit. So there is a fruit that we have as believers that becomes very, very attractive to people. Like I said, I truly do believe that it is here a lot of times referring to the fruit of the Spirit. There should be a spirit and an attitude and a lifestyle of love and peace and joy and patience and kindness in our life. Because that's what he declares. That's what the Spirit will come and do in our lives. Jesus also, he talks a lot too about, especially even in these portions of Scripture, he talks a lot about love. Because he said there, he says, if you are my disciples, people shall know you're my disciples if you have love one for another. He talks a lot about love. And he also says, greater love has no one than this, than a man laying down his life for his friends. But this fruit is not possible without being connected to him. So when Jesus talks about him being the true vine, he's saying that he is the life source. And if we're connected to him, that life source produces fruit. It's just the way it works. Because if the branches are connected to the vine, what do? They produce fruit. Especially if they have a good gardener, he'll go in and maybe even produce more fruit. And see, that's what God did. He'll come in. And I said, you don't have to do it on your, you don't have to try to figure it out on your. He's the one who will come in and help you do this. So I'm asking our musicians to come, and I'm going to close with just a couple sayings here. But as I close, let me just write about the three things. Number one, Jesus is the life source. Number two, the life source produces fruit. And number three, no Jesus, no life, and no fruit. Because it's all about Jesus, it's about Jesus, it's about Jesus. Like I said, as I sort of did a synopsis at the beginning of this message this morning, as I was talking about the I ams, I have written down here, and it will come up on the screen behind me, said, Lord, help us to know and understand that it's all about you. Understand this morning, it's all about him. You are the one we need. You are the one we need to rely on. You are the true source of life. You are the answer to all the questions that we asked. See, all the questions that I named earlier, so these are the questions that are brought up. How do we know? Is there this we need to do and that we need to do? All the answers is Jesus. And so, Pastor, how can you say that? And again, let me share it with you. As we keep our eyes upon him, and we look at him as being the way, the truth, and the life, we look at him being the resurrection life, we look at him being the gate, as we look at him being the shepherd, as we look at him being the light, as we look at him being the bread, as we look at him being the vine, and all of that, he gives us direction. He guides us into the truth. And as long as we keep our eyes upon him, we never have to worry about going astray or doing anything wrong. So he will show us if there's something we need to do, it will just naturally come in that relationship. Something needs to be changed, he'll take it out of us. Because again, as we look to him and trust in him, he will lead and guide and direct us to where we need to go. Because it truly is all about him. About the I am. It's all about him. Which comes down to our whole point in this, what do we need to do in order for this to take place? A lot of the songs we sang at the beginning of service in worship, I want to sort of point you in that direction. This is my desire. Glorify your name as we all bow down, casting off our crowns, as we join as one. Glorify your name. Lord, I give you my heart, I give you my soul. It all comes down to us surrendering to him. It's about truly getting to a place where you realize you don't have the answers. Because if you were smart this morning, you would realize when it comes to a lot of things, you don't have the answer. But I'm sharing somebody with you today who does. But truly, nothing ever takes him by surprise. Nothing takes him by surprise. A lot of things take us by surprise. But how can you take someone by surprise who knows everything? Who, you know, I was sharing with somebody, I can't remember if I shared this in service or not. But you know, we know, as the Bible describes God, God has no beginning. So that means He goes back as far as before there was time. Before time was even a thought. And then some. And then some. And then some. And then some. We're talking about an awful long time. We have a little bit more easier understanding, in some degree, of what it would understand to maybe live forever, because we're alive now. We sort of like the thought, well, hey, it'd be nice to just not die and just keep on living. So, you know, but even that can sort of boggle the mind. But here's the awesomeness of God. As far back in time as it can go, and as far in the future as it can go, with God, understand this, it's all now. Let that settle in a second. What I mean is, because He's God, time is of no consequence. What in our case would be, if you believe on science, which I wish you believe on this, that 100 million years ago is 100 million years to God. It's still now. See, when you're eternal, time doesn't tick by. So everything He knows now. What's in the future is now. See, it's not the future to Him. It's now. That's why He can move upon John directly wrote it in Revelation. Because, now again, you will talk about a mind-blowing concept. But I said that to help you understand, this is how great God is. This is the one who wants to speak into your life and says, hey, I know the direction you need to go. It's a perfect thing. Now let that blow your mind. And honestly, He can see it in any decision you make where you're going to be. In other words, if you decide to make a right-hand turn instead of a left-hand turn, He knows what the end result there is going to be. But if you decide to make a left-hand turn, He knows what's going on. Forgive me, right? He knows what the end result there is. You know what I'm saying? Just let it settle in how awesome He is. And this is the one who's saying, when you leave God, church. Hopefully that puts it on a little bit different level for you about trusting in Him, a little different way to truly. Why should I trust Him? Because again, He knows it all. He knows it all. He knows it all. But we have to get to a place where we truly believe that. And where we're willing to surrender what we think we know to the one who does know. Where we surrender what we think we know to the one who does know. And just trust that honestly, He does have our best interest at heart. And that's the thing He does. That's why He comes in and prunes and lifts up all of us. He does it all. He doesn't just easily just cast us away. Because He wants us to be successful too. He's not ready to lower the hammer on us. He wants us to grow in Him and produce fruit. And it all centers around this one named Jesus. Like I said, I know some of the stuff I'm sharing here. I know some mind-blowing things. But that's who our God is. He is a mind-blowing God. He will rock your world. He's awesome, amen. So it gets to a place. What do we do with all of this? How do we have all this happen? Like I said, it's about surrendering to Him. I'm actually just stand with me this morning. We're actually starting this song in the bridge of the song. Because this is where we need to end up this morning. Is surrendering to Him. And as we have gone through this series of messages, talking about the I am, I hope it has helped you understand Jesus a little bit better, what He's offering you, what He's making available to you, who He is. Because especially when we're getting ready to fight some of these battles, we need to understand who He is, what He declares, what He's offering us. Because He is the answer. But the only way He can truly be the answer in your life is when you surrender everything to Him. Amen. So again, I'm not going to necessarily just do an altar call, but if you, as we just sing this song this morning, if God just begins to move upon your heart and say, Lord, whatever it is you need to pray for, whether it's dealing with this, whether a situation is going on in your life, or your family, whatever, I'm here to tell you, Jesus is, hear me this morning, Jesus is the answer. Jesus is the answer. He declared that through every single one of these I am statements. He is the answer. It's all available in Him. But the only way we can truly acquire that from Him is by surrendering to Him. So if you're in this place this morning, you need to come to Him for anything. You need whatever it is. It's available there for you. Because again, I just want to reiterate to you what He says in verse 7. He says, but if you remain in me and my words remain in you, you may ask for anything you want and it will be granted. Now again, He's not giving you a blank check. The key is what He says in the beginning. What does He say? But if you remain in me and my words remain in you, in other words, when there is truly, when it's shown that you have fruit in your life, that you belong to me, that others, that I'm in you, that you're connected to the life source, you may ask for anything you want and I will give it. And it will be granted. Do you really understand what He's offering you today? But it's not some willy-nilly lifestyle. It's about if you're in Him and His words remain in you. Did you hear me? You're in Him and His words remain in you. Then all of a sudden, ask for anything and it will be granted. Why? Because you're asking it according to who He is and according to His will and purpose. Because He'll never lead you down the wrong road. It's all available in Him. So let's sing this song in this morning. And if you feel the Lord moving upon your heart, that's what I'm telling you. He's the answer. He's here to meet your need. He's here right now. You can say, well, Pastor, can I do this? Yeah, you can. But there's just something, again, there's something about that act of faith of just stepping out and saying, Lord, it's really, that's all it is. It's just an act of faith. It's a step of faith. That's what it is. I mean, when you went to God, when the Spirit drove you, you had to step towards Him at least, right? You had to make a motion towards Him. And that's what I'm trying to encourage you to do today. Because as you begin to just take one step, God will rush in and meet the need. That I do know. Because He is a faithful God. Amen? Sing this with me, sing. Say, all to Jesus. All